So, welcome Paul.
Hi.
So obviously on these types of podcasts that we do, they're called disruptive, so we're going to ask sort of disruptive questions. We want to be as disruptive as you absolutely love to do, and just be as open as you possibly can be without actually giving any trade secrets away.
Sure, yeah.
And to start with, what we tend to ask is, we're interested in you. How did you get into this industry? You know, I always term this as the new industrial revolution. I don't know whether everybody else is, but I am. And we didn't all of us start with an absolute definitive idea that we're going to get into technology. But how did it start for you? What's your career journey?
Well, originally I wanted to, when I was younger, from probably about 11 years of age, I wanted to be a music journalist. Yeah, no, I can't play anything. A music journalist, I'm obsessed with music.
Right.
That's my first love. And then about 13, my dad brought home an old PC that the business he worked in was throwing away.
Yeah.
Brought it home, dismantled it, rebuilt it, went to computer fairs to buy, upgrades, and at that point then I knew that's probably what I was going to end up doing.
Yeah.
First IT job, proper one at 17, which was actually probably the coolest job I've had in IT, which was a games tester.
Nice.
On a Sega Dreamcast, so way back when. And then went to university, didn't like it, and
what did you do at university?
Economics, business and economics. Didn't like it at all.
Compared to the whole.
Yeah, so I just didn't like it. To be fair, I stopped excelling in academia when I left primary school, which means there's a large portion of my academic life where I really didn't put the effort in that I should have done, and not something to be proud of, it's just a fact. And I went to university, got kicked out after 2.5 years, and then thought, right, I just need to buckle down now and go and get a job. So my first proper IT job was at a company in Cheshire, and I was an internal support, on shifts, 24/7, on call, that type of stuff. And then the turning point really in my career was the company I worked for bought VMware very early on, like version 1.5, and I watched it go in. I was like, oh wow, this is game changer. I've never seen anything like this before. This is amazing. I want to do that for a living. Yeah. So I took on being.
You didn't know what? You just wanted to do something with it.
I wanted to do it over and over again. So I sat with the consultant that put it in for the company I was working for. I was like, I want your job. That's what I want to do. Yeah. So I learned it for about a year, inside out and backwards at the company. And then I went and got a consulting role, my first consulting role at a company in Warrington, which is where I'm from. And then that company went bust in 2009. Yeah. And I moved to ANS. And the rest of it is history, really. Started off as a VMware consultant at ANS, and then just said yes to all the different jobs that came up, and eventually ended up as the CEO.
You make it sound really easy, Paul, and it's not easy.
No.
You know this, right? So you've said yes to all things that you've been either thrown at or you've been approached for. What is it that made you say yes? Because half the time we're told we shouldn't say yes to things unless we know what we're doing. Yeah. But then on the other hand, we should just throw ourselves in and take risks. How many risks are you taking?
Oh, I'd say I'm definitely in the latter camp of. Yeah. I've said yes to stuff that I actually didn't have a clue what I was doing, but the business, Scott and Paul, particularly the former major shareholders, they obviously saw in me that I would be able to do it, even though I didn't know how to do it at the time. I was saying yes to it, so they believed in me. So that gave me a lot of belief in myself to just go and do it, and always back myself, and just because this is, I think, working in the channel. It's about as hard a job in IT as you can possibly get, because you're constantly fighting and battling competitors to try and create value. So it's hard work. So it's definitely not a learn it all and then say yes. For me, it's always been, well, if you believe I can do it, then I'm going to have to give it my best go. And I've always considered myself sort of a strategic implementer. I can see the big goal and focus on the big goal rather than getting stymied and bogged down in the details. Yeah.
Do you regret not finishing university now?
Given where my career's taken me, I think it's quite difficult to regret it, because would I like to have given education from secondary school onwards more the respect that it deserves? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've got 2 kids now as well, so I don't want them to treat school the way I treated school. And so I keep drilling into how important it is, but they obviously know my journey. I think they probably look at me as a bit of a hypocrite, but there's a bit of do as I say, not as I did. So no, I don't regret it, but I've always said to myself that I'll go back and finish it, through Open University or something like that, but I just, you just don't have the time. When you're in the midst of this, you just don't have the time.
You don't really need to either, or don't you?
No, so it's not something that I've ever thought, one day I'll definitely go and do that. It's just that periodically it's cropped up, and I thought I should have given it more respect.
Yeah, good point. So you've obviously been very, very driven, because you know, whilst you made it sound so easy, not everybody could do the journey that you've done. You literally seem to have bounced from one thing to the next thing. Keep going. What drives you?
I am a real perfectionist. I want to be the best version of me in work that I could possibly be every day. I get very annoyed with myself if even I have a day where I don't feel like I've created some value or done what I needed to do. I get irritated with myself. I think I'm a little bit better now than I was, years ago. I used to get really frustrated really quickly with myself, and just, that would sort of motivate me the next day to work even harder. But I'm a perfectionist and I'm a workaholic. I'm not saying that's necessarily something to be proud of. Again, it's just a fact. I think I do a slightly better job of distributing my time amongst the different parts of my life than I used to. But it's hard, running a business. It is hard to dedicate much time to many other things.
And get quite lonely, can't it?
Yes.
When you're kind of forging your way through.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well, it is a lonely role, because when you're frustrated or annoyed or concerned or worried, you've got to protect the team because they're looking to you as the one who's going to, not necessarily on your own, but they're looking to you going, well, if he's comfortable and confident, it's going to be fine. So if you're portraying and giving off a bad aura that you're nervous, then it doesn't sit well. But it doesn't mean that you don't have the anxieties and worries about it. You just can't talk to anyone about it.
No, true. So from gaming tester to CEO, incredible journey. Over what period of time is that?
Nearly 25 years.
Right, 25 years. So do you think that your job now involves a lot of the things that you've learned over those 25 years, and what elements of that have sort of stuck in your mind?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, being the CEO is definitely the kind of culmination of loads of different skills that I've learned, and I think some of the bits that stand out, so Paul Sweeney, who was the CEO before me, amazing guy, despite the fact that I'm social and I'm comfortable in social surroundings, I am not a natural networker, and I used to, before I became CEO, when I was COO, I used to deliberately and consciously kind of give the networking events to Paul. I booked Paul on it because I didn't want to do them. And eventually he cottoned on to the fact that I was doing this, and he said, sat me down and said, as CEO, you can't be a CEO unless you can walk into a room with a load of strangers and just say, hi, I'm Paul Shannon, I'm the CEO of ANS. And he said, so you're doing it, you're going to go and learn it. And there was loads of it, loads of, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late, and just loads of these really, really good business life skills. And when I was in pre-sales, I spent a lot of time with me, Andy Barrow, Paul Sweeney, Gareth Ainsworth, who's sales director now, and that was the level of commerciality that you need, I think, as a high-functioning CEO. You need to be really commercial, and a lot of that was learnt in the pre-sales part of my career. So pretty much, and the fact that I'm technical to it, or was technical, helps me in conversations with techies and customers still. So I think it is just a culmination of all of it.
So what do you think? I mean, we've talked for briefly and pointedly about skills deficit mostly, and the fact that it's hard to find good people. You don't want to lose them when you've got them. Your journey has been very individual, as most of our journeys have been individual. But what would you look for now to bring people on, knowing what you know from your own career development?
Definitely recruitment is about attitude. Primarily. You can teach pretty much any skills. There's some niche skills that you need to have gone to university and had a specific degree in. Well, they're quite few and far between. The rest of it, you can learn it if you've got the right attitude. So definitely recruiting an attitude and retaining the people, what I call the A-team, the value creators, is an absolute business imperative. You must keep those people happy, you must keep them stimulated, challenged, and just bought into the wider team. So I think that's probably what we've done better than other things that we've done, is making sure that the A-team, we just very rarely lose anyone from it, because they're so bought into where we're going that they'll do, move hell and high water to make sure we get there, but we also have a laugh while we're doing it. You've
obviously just gone through a huge amount of, you're still going through a huge amount of work with the integration of ANS and UKFast. Massive journey for you, and a massive experience. I guess another one of those risk-taking areas that you're going to be jumped into. What are the key elements to that, and the key kind of challenges you're facing at the moment with that?
So originally, when Inflection invested in ANS, it wasn't going to be a merger. It was going to be two standalone companies within the same portfolio of Inflection. And it didn't take that long to realise, actually, trying to work out cross-sell, ups, all of this, it's really complicated when you know, this concept of wooden dollars here and cost of sale, that we do really need to merge the businesses. So that was quite bold, going from telling the businesses there was definitely a standalone business and we weren't merging, to then knowing that we had enough emotional currency in the bank account for them to believe that it was not a predetermined decision, because it absolutely wasn't. We just realised that we needed to do it. But then I remember getting advice from some peers about integrations and mergers. You've just got to do them quickly. Deal with all the pain as early as you possibly can. Try and do it as sensitively as you possibly can, but do it as quickly as you can at the same time. And that was a really powerful message, which is why we set a goal of, we started it probably in October, the legal integration of the entities and moving people over onto different contracts and whatnot. And we set a goal of completing it by March the 31st, and we did. So just, you know, having a deadline does focus the mind, and we did a lot of work, a phenomenal amount of work in, you know, the royal we, everybody in the team did a massive amount of work in 5 months. It was crazy, really.
Yeah, I can only imagine what you're going through, and it's it can be really negative in terms of productivity. If you find that you've been trying to kind of keep people motivated and whatever else that's going on, or has it just been you've kept a lot away from the bulk of the
No, so we deliberately involved as many people in the process as we possibly could. We called it Project Eden, you know, like a new dawn. We got someone from what was UKFast, and somebody from the old world ANS, and we had counterparts in each department. They worked together to go and understand each side of the business, what was common, what was different, what we needed to cater for, and we bought pretty much the whole business into the process as we were doing it, so they felt like it was part of it. So it wasn't so much general challenges, it was distraction. You can't do all that and expect everyone to do the best possible job of the day job all the way through. So we just had to make some concessions that we are going to drop a few balls here, but in order to get the buy-in that we're going to get from getting everyone properly involved is worth the fact that we're going to have to pick up a bit of a mess everywhere and just go for it.
Yeah, and I think you can't avoid that, can you? You can't sort of make an omelette without cracking eggs, as they say. No. I think, you know, you're right. I would agree that you know, you've just got to kind of rip the band-aid off a little bit, because people want an identity, don't they? You know, they want to know that they're being catered for and supported. So I'm really passionate about this industry, and I'm sure you are because you've worked your way through it. This is my fourth industry, but even so, I think it's the most vibrant, fast-moving, innovative. What are you passionate about? What this industry represents in technology, and how can we get more people involved?
Well, especially now more than ever, we have turned into, well, the good businesses have turned into completely outcome-based with customers. So that conversation and moving away from just providing some infrastructure and the customer then driving the outcome part of that conversation, that's gone for us. We are squarely having conversations with line of business apps, you know, business outcomes, business digital strategy, all of that. Being in the conversation with the customer and listen to them talk about the challenges they've got, and knowing that we can actually build us an outcome-based solution that will fix this customer problem. That's actually really powerful, really interesting, never gets boring, and is strategic, and that's where really you should want to be operating in a business like ours at a strategic level with customers. So it's also really universal. We have done a good job, but we would like to do even better of bringing, you know, of trying to fix the diversity, women in IT. We've done a good job. We have a number of female salespeople now, where we had none a few years ago. We've got quite a few female techies, even more, to be fair, now with the UKFast merger. We've got a lot of female techies. Nice. So, and the reason that's really, really important is the best way to come up with a good idea is to have lots of ideas. And if you've got a lot of diversity of thought in those processes to help the customer, you just end up with a much better solution. So it's got business benefits, as well as just being a better place to work with, not looking around and everyone looks like you. It's
I mean, you talk about diversity, and I wasn't going to get heavily into that, because every conversation that we have at the moment, I think as business leaders, we're always talking about diversity.
Yeah, but we were doing it before it was cool.
Right. Brilliant. Yeah, before anyone jumped on it, nice.
Before it was an obligation, we were doing it because we knew we needed to do it.
Well, the point is, as you say, every idea is a good idea, actually. It's just getting as many in the pot as possible to be able to choose from it. How do you proactively look at diversity, or is it just that you're just super inclusive when you're hiring? Do you have sort of different agendas in your recruiting, or different directives, or do you run different campaigns?
Yeah, we don't have directives to say we must recruit people of this type into these roles, but we've done a sweeping review of the whole business, and we've got EDI teams for diversity and inclusion, we've got able groups, we've got LGBTQ groups, so we've actually got, and they're owned properly by team members.
Yeah.
That's not a board, they're not board mandated, they've been built from within the business.
Nice.
So they then look at, well, we're actually refurbing the office that we're in right now, and we've gone to the able group and said, actually, we've realised that we've not really consulted with you guys properly, and it's really important that you can use this office as much as anybody else. So, things like that, yes, it is really important, but what we avoid is just going and mandating, because we still want the best person for the job, and it's incumbent on us, rather than mandating it must be a person of this type, we will mandate we want the best person for the job. We just do a better job of trying to get applicants from a much broader spectrum.
Absolutely. And I don't know what your thoughts are on those types of mandates, because I hear an awful lot about American companies that will have a quota for female staff or for diverse staff or ethnic minority staff. What's your thoughts on that?
I suppose it might depend on the industry or the history of a particular industry. But the problem that we've had in this industry, and forgive the bluntness of it, it's largely been run by fat middle-aged white men, including me. So, and that's not really conducive to making sure that you are advertising in a way that brings because this is a really diverse community where we are now in here. We are slap bang in the middle of Hume, and it's a very, very diverse area. So we've got, it's incumbent on us not just to be representatives of what the UK numbers are, but actually to be representative of the community, and that's just the right thing to do. That's not a kind of business problem, that's a societal problem that you're trying to fix or be part of the solution rather than part of the problem.
Pale, male and stale, I heard the other day.
Oh yeah, I like
use
that.
That.
Yes, I like that.
I run into it all the time, as you can imagine. So what do you think the future is? I mean, tech is fast moving, right? We can't possibly predict what's going to happen in 2 years, let alone in the next 10 years. But what do you think is going to happen for your business, for ANS, and how is technology going to change for you? And is it going to be, are you going to have to change different working practices? Are you going to kind of diversify even more into what you're doing?
We're in the position that I never thought we'd be in, which is we've always been ANS as was before the investment. We were always a mid-market, large public sector deal, so big, massive projects, large one-off projects, mostly digital, public cloud, that kind of stuff. With the merger, we've now got a really large SMB business. We've got 5,000 SMB customers, or SME customers. So the ANS part of the board, as was, have now got to go and learn all about SMB, which we never thought we would do, but it's actually been, again, it keeps it fresh, it keeps it interesting, and we're now looking at that thinking, actually, this could be the biggest driver of growth within our business going forward, and we are investing a huge amount of time, effort, money into SMB within the business, because we can see that not only is it a growth market for Microsoft and for generally in the industry, but the time to actually being able to realise the income from those customers is much shorter than it is to go and win the enterprise deals. We still want the enterprise deals and we're still going to go for them, but they're two discretely different parts of the business.
Sounds like it's shorter and the appetite's higher, isn't it? Because the tech adoption is very much prevalent in startups as much as anything else, which is really important. So totally agree with you there. So let's talk about our little conversation that we had. The first time I spoke to you actually, which was the fact that one of your guys approached us for a job, and these things are going to happen, right? And I wasn't aware of it at the time. When I became aware of it, obviously we had a conversation. It's going to be really tough in the future, and to sort of try and mitigate this. But at the same time, it is about being open and honest and saying, we'll keep each other informed because of the investment in certain people. But this great resignation is not going away for the short term, and we're experiencing it. I'm sure you're experiencing it, where you want good people, but you also want to retain good people. How can we as business leaders help slow this kind of craziness of I need to just rush off and go and get more money from somewhere and ignorantly losing staff? How can we stop this?
Retention is really hard now. The concept of my journey of being at ANS for 13 years, it's not that it will go away completely. I just think the percentage of people that will be in a business for as long as I've been in ANS will diminish over time, will just get smaller and smaller, which is sort of okay if you've got multiple different avenues to bring people into the business. I think you're just going to have to reconcile with yourself. Apart from maybe the people who've got a significant investment in, say, shares and equity, then everybody else, you're going to have to come up with mechanisms to fix the fact that, or to cater for the fact that this 5 years, 10 years, it's not going to go away completely, but it won't be like it was. And that means you're going to have multiple different training providers that you're working with, recruitment partners, apprenticeship academies, which we've got. You're going to have so many different avenues. You just won't be able to do with one decent recruitment partner. It just won't be enough anymore.
Yeah. And what's your retention like? It's pretty good, isn't it, in the ANS business, certainly. And obviously you've lost people through acquisition because that just happens.
Yeah.
And some people aren't right for you, and sometimes you're not right for them, and whatever. And so you stem that now. Do you see that you've got a huge amount of new roles to fill in the next sort of year?
I reckon between now and the end of the financial year, which is December for us now, we'll probably have to recruit 80 people.
Yeah.
Which is not an insignificant job at all. The biggest issue we've had over the last probably 18 months is professional services.
Right.
Yeah, because ANS are known to, recruit and cultivate really high quality PS people. We do end up with, other partners and other competitors.
Right.
Hitting us quite hard sometimes, so that's been tough the last 18 months, but it's just a business problem you've got to fix. You have to fix it. You can't sit in the boardroom and the professional services director just turn around and say, well, sorry, we can't recruit. It's like, well, no, we're going to have to. This is a business problem.
And what can we, because again, we need to sort of think outside the box of where we're recruiting from. One of my biggest passions is actually having conversations about getting people into this industry earlier. Not necessarily at apprentice level or whatever, but actually talking to kids about this as an opportunity, because there are so many career options, and actually then employers spending time training up. I know it takes time, but you'd rather have 18 months of training someone than 18 months of nobody and then another 18 months of trying to find somebody. So, how do you guys find people, and is your appetite open to training and developing people who've never been experienced the IT world at all?
Yeah, so we partner with a company called Tech Returners. So some of those are actually genuinely people who've worked in tech before, taking a career break and coming back. But some of them actually didn't work in tech. They've taken a career break and then they're learning tech as part of that cohort. So we do that. It's apprentices, it's graduates, it's everything. Basically everything's got to be on the table now.
I know. And do you think that people are more aware of tech businesses now? Because I still feel that there's an ignorance even at school age, even though we're using technology every day, that they just think that the tech companies are the big guys and they don't know anything else. They must have passed this building, people passed this building so many times on the Dragon to Manchester and thought, wonder what that is? Yeah. And not bothered and thought, well, it's a tech business, I've got a skill set for that.
Yeah, I think in the general consciousness it is increasing.
Yeah.
But talking about like women specifically, and then talk about girls, and I mean girls at school. Yeah. So I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's something that's really stark. So in secondary school, 80% of girls do IT. Yeah. Then when you go to college, it goes from 80% to something like 60%. And by the time it gets to university, it's fanned out really to about 30%. But the numbers are there or thereabouts. I can't quite remember exactly. Yeah. But then it's becoming incumbent on the employers to fix a problem that isn't created by us in the first place. We just don't have a big enough pool of talent to recruit from. So I agree, there is probably an argument to say that we need to get involved rather than just shaking our heads and trying to fix it at the end. We probably do need to try and get involved and fix it at the beginning.
And it's not going to be easy. I think we just got to go and have those difficult conversations and challenge them all at schools and whatnot, and just try and make IT at GCSE a little bit more than Microsoft Office and that kind of thing. So that's good. So quick fire at the end then. So you've obviously been exposed to a lot of different people, a lot of influential people in your career. Who's inspired you the most? Not necessarily who you've worked with, but who in your career has inspired you the most?
I've been really, really lucky to have a few really, really good mentors. Some of them that just reached out to me directly because they've spoken to someone who's mentioned my name. And it's been unprompted by me, which is really, really, really nice to have happen to you, especially when it's people of the quality of people like Phil Doy, Kelway/CDW, who's just a mega guy, just really amazing. And then I've always had a lot of respect for the Softcat guys, not just because they've got a business that just keeps growing and growing and growing, which is phenomenal, but also the culture there. I know the guys quite well, and I know the guys that were, like Martin Halliwell and Colin Brown and those guys. it's genuine, it's actually real, and in a lot of businesses you get this facade on LinkedIn, you think, well, I'm not really sure that's authentic, but those guys are. So even though we've competed against them, I've always had a massive amount of respect for the soft guys.
And let's be honest, in our world we've got to collaborate anyway, so sometimes it is a compete-collaborate scenario regardless, isn't it?
I think it's really important.
I think so. Sharing ideas, I think is really important as well, so that's good. Second question on the quick fires, which aren't really quick fires, but anyway, if you could go to your younger self, right? So let's say, when was the time when you were thinking, like you were playing with the games and you were messing around with the computer? What advice would you give to yourself?
To my 16-year-old self, I would probably say, even though it's worked out for me absolutely fine in the end, I would probably say go and get an apprenticeship in IT now. Really? At 16, don't go and waste time at something that you're not going to apply yourself properly to. As soon as I started in a proper job, I knew that that's what I was meant to do, but I didn't really do that in IT until I was 22. So 6 years. It's worked out fine for me, so that held me back, but I probably would just say, don't mess about in school. Just or a college and university, just go and get an apprenticeship in IT.
Brilliant. Great advice. I think everyone should do it. And last one. So, if you're having a pint beer, lager, in pub snack, crisps, nuts, or olives?
Always crisps. I'm a crispaholic.
Beautiful. Flavour?
And I like the more exotic. So there's a katsu curry one in M&S, and they're absolutely outrageous. Just the big grab bags. That's just basically just get devoured. Yeah, they're delicious.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. And thanks everyone for listening, watching. Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed the show, and do stay tuned for the next one.